Here we go again. Optimistic struggles. Boom, boom, boom. Number 3. Into it. Devon, good week.
Been all right. Just living the iron reflection of my glasses. So I thought I'd take those off. All right weekend. Started off with a bit of reffing underwater hockey, and then found out that Bex has got the old vid, so I had to go home on Saturday morning and spent some quality time doing puzzles, watching TV, watching movies. It's been great.
You're isolating.
Isolating. Doing
Far out.
the good for the people.
We've all been there.
Yeah. You've already isolated, haven't you?
Yeah, I isolated back when it was 10 days long. Yep.
Oh.
Been there, done that. Yep. Glad to be on the other side, that's for sure.
Back when I was a boy, it was 10 days long.
Back in the day.
Yeah,
we will be saying back in the day, like give it a decade, and there's these young bucks running around and they can't remember anything. We'll be like, back in the day, there was this crazy thing called COVID, and we had to for 2 whole years, we had to isolate. People were complaining and protesting. They had to stay at home and watch Netflix and eat food from the safety of their own home, but they said that their freedoms were being encroached. That's the narrative that will go down.
And they'll be like, "What's Netflix?"
What's that?
I have no idea what Netflix or a TV is. I'll be like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, they'll be running around in virtual reality, and the metaverse will be.
We won't even have conversations by that point. It'll just be messaging.
No, it's a bit of a worry, actually. We'll all be living in the metaverse, and then just to keep your real body sustained, you'll have to go to the actual supermarket to buy food so that you can have your nutrition to jump back into the metaverse again.
Yeah, well, we just did our first online order for shopping. First time ever.
Did you?
Previously, because we've been able to go out to the supermarket, it was like our exciting trip out in the past lockdowns. But now that we've actually, Bex has got the vid, we actually had to do the proper isolation thing and ordered on, the countdown shop order. It's not as fun. You don't get to walk down every aisle and look at all the specials.
That's pretty handy. Like if you're short on
time,
very handy. You need food. Everyone needs food, but if you just need it delivered to your doorstep, why go out? You just jump on the computer, get someone to deliver it.
Took away one of our dates. Me and Bex have a very exciting life. We go on dates to the supermarket, go on dates to do food prep.
Lively romantic life. No, that's good.
Me, I'm a romantic.
Indeed.
Sometimes we get chocolate at the end.
Ooh, fancy. Haven't we done well?
Yeah.
All right, mate. Let's jump into it. What are we talking about today?
Talking about toxic masculinity. Kind of probably biting off more than we can chew at this point.
Absolutely.
Third one in. Thought we'd take on a massive topic at the moment. We actually had quite a few people message me. Yeah, a few people have messaged saying they're impressed, saying that we're taking on such a big topic. It actually kind of spiked, I guess, last week when we were chatting, and I had someone message me about one of my mental health Mondays, and when I was talking about changing diapers, and not changing diapers, I was talking about being too afraid to hold a baby because I'd crush it. But then the real story behind that is that I was actually more afraid that the baby would break me. That was last week's Mental Health Monday. Not as in a physical sense, more of an emotional sense, and people seeing true emotion, which can be pretty scary for a guy, especially when you've kind of spent majority of your life putting on this facade of manliness, growing big beards and lots of muscles.
Going to the gym. Yeah.
Going to the gym. Raw.
Yep.
Pump iron.
That's the one.
And then it's just. Sorry, what was that?
I feel like before we get into this topic properly, we've got to come in with a disclaimer, because there's always going to be keyboard warriors out there that will attack us for something we say. It'll either come from the ultra left where we're like saying something too much about being a man, and like we have like we all have separate genders or something, or it'll come from the hard right where someone's saying that like we are our own beings and like we've got to stick to gender roles. So this comes with the disclaimer, this topic, because someone's going to say something about what we say. So I feel like
I put that on my Mental Health Monday today. I was like, disclaimer, I have no idea what I'm actually talking about.
Yeah. So I guess this podcast, we're trying to unpack ideas to try and get to a shared understanding. Maybe
we're having a conversation.
Yeah. So with that in mind, before everyone starts attacking us for something silly we're about to say, let's get into it.
We apologize in advance for anything stupid we say.
We do. But if you have an idea to share, comment below. Love to hear your thoughts, and we can talk about it. All right, toxic masculinity, big topic.
Should I start us off with the put my glasses on so I can read it, the Mental Health Monday that I posted up today. So I actually got Bex to check me on this one because I was going a little bit deeper than I normally do, but I have been asked to be as vulnerable as possible. So
that's the one.
Firstly, what is toxic masculinity? Depends on who you ask. Also, is it as bad as people say? Also depends who you ask. My definition, personally, of what toxic masculinity is anything that makes you feel more of a man at others' expense. So, for example, that as a teenager, I was always trying to be a man. Shit, even to this day, I subconsciously still do it. I would hide away my true self in peer pressure situations to fit in with the cool kids. In truth, I was a drama nerd. I joined a glee club, and I was always worrying about what that did to my image. So I acted tough. Maybe that's where my strut came from. Anyone who's seen me walk will know what I'm talking about. And I would join on jokes that weren't actually that funny. They were pretty cruel to other people. When I went to uni, I tried to rebrand, become more manly, more what was mainstream. Shaved my hair, had the whole skinhead cutback thing. Tried to be what society told me to be, someone who treated girls like shit so that they'd like you. And, well, to be honest, it actually worked pretty well. And I'm not too happy with the fact that it did. And it took me a while to snap out of it. Met a few cool people who kind of brought me back to my senses, and it's taken a few years to come back into reality. I'm ad-libbing a little bit to my own post. In the last few years doing these posts, learning more about mental health, I've learned to be more vulnerable, learned to embrace my emotional side, and I'm also trying to make myself a better human. One thing I actually did put in that post originally is I said my more feminine side. So that's the point right there, saying that there's that whole masculine, feminine sort of side to things. And I actually decided to change the wordings because I've had feedback from some of my avid readers. Would readers be the right word?
Your fans.
Yeah, my fans. That using certain words, hashtag influencer, using certain words can have a negative effect without you intending them to. So with my posts, I've been trying to be a little bit more aware of how I've been saying things. But on the last part of that post, I said, if I've ever made you feel less of a man or made myself feel more of a man by treating you like shit, I'm sorry, because nobody is perfect, apart from me, of course. No, that's a joke. I should put that in the post saying that's a joke, just in case no one got it.
Here comes the keyboard warriors, mate.
And you can't change the past, but you can change the future. So start telling people that their behavior is not okay. Start letting people see your emotions and start being your true self. And my own personal goal is to get back into singing and theatre at some point, as I actually really do enjoy it. I love performing. I love being in front of people. But I actually stopped because I was embarrassed, not because I didn't have time, even though that was my main excuse. And I didn't want people laughing at me. And a lot of people get quite surprised by that because I'm usually the type of guy who kind of enjoys laughter. And I used to think that if they're laughing at me or with me, I'm doing my job properly. But over the years, that confidence shell kind of just cracked away. And I actually stopped doing drama and theatre because I was like, well, don't really want to be that guy anymore. And so, once I got into the gym and started lifting some heavy weights, I kind of thought I had this persona I had to put on again. And then, ever since I started the Mental Health Mondays 2 years ago now, that was post number 100 today, I started cracking open the tough exterior to show the big marshmallow that's inside.
That's the one.
Yeah.
A lot in there, Devin, what you just said.
Lots in there. Lots of it.
Yeah.
So, all close up in my bed.
Yeah, I guess there's...
What do you think?
There's the naturally, or no, naturally might be the wrong word, but there's traditional feminine traits and traditional masculine traits, right? And we... certain people associate with those, and we're all on the spectrum, right? And no one's like fully male in their, I guess, persona, and no one's fully female, but there's traditional traits, right? So
yeah,
and we all fit in the spectrum somewhere, and wherever someone lies, that's fine, you know. So that's the baseline that we can go off, right? I guess the toxic masculinity stuff comes in when it's harmful for themselves because they're trying to be someone they're not, or it's harmful to others because they're imposing ideas on someone else to be masculine. And we have a huge mental health crisis in New Zealand and a huge suicide crisis in New Zealand. So a lot of this does or some of those issues stem, I think, from toxic masculinity. And so there has to be, we need to talk more about these ideas because it's a big issue in our society at the moment. And where to start, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. It's a big can of worms that we do need to fix because when you check New Zealand's rankings against the developed countries in the OECD, it's pretty shabby. So yeah, it's a big topic. My personal experiences is that I grew up in an all boys school, and I enjoyed myself. It was a great education, and I had quite a few friends. And naturally, I veered towards sport because I was energetic. I didn't really like the classroom as much as others, or as much as I should have. Or who knows? I just veered towards exercise. So that led me down the path of, I guess, just jumping into sport, being athletic, looking after my nutrition. I went to parties. I didn't really drink as much as others. So I was peer pressured to drink more than I did often at times. And sometimes I did. And that was, I guess it was just a learning curve to stand up for myself because I didn't always, especially in my teens. But then in my 20s, I definitely came into my own. And I haven't really drunk much in my 20s because I don't really see the point of it. For me personally, I don't get much benefit out of it on any level, emotionally, financially, whatever. It doesn't really vibe with me. I've had drinks on occasion, but for the most part, I tend to stay sober. So yeah, because I've always enjoyed being in those team environments where it's high energy, a lot of sport, mainly with guys because I've been in men's teams, and I've really enjoyed that sort of culture. I haven't really succumbed to as much pressure as others, I don't think, because naturally that's where my tendencies go. And I found those environments quite positive for myself. But I can definitely tell when those team environments get toxic, and like there's this gut feeling you get when something just doesn't sit right. And as I've gotten older, it's easier to call it out, and it's easier to call it out early. So if someone's pressuring someone to do something, if you jump on it straight away, then it's a lot less likely to head down a bad path and it gets snapped up quickly. There's this sort of snowball effect that happens if it doesn't.
Yeah, definitely. On your points of you can see when the point starts turning toxic, and I think that's one of the big things that I struggled when toxic masculinity first came out, because it felt like it was an attack at just being a guy, and I don't think it's meant to be that way. I think it's meant to be saying that there are certain traits that come with that kind of pack mentality, which can be usually stems most of the toxic nature. Whereas just being a general guy is actually a good thing, because we need guys, we need girls to create babies to have more evolution. Like that's just what humans do. We essentially live to procreate. In like basic evolution terms. Obviously, there's a lot more to the meaning of life than just having kids, and some people don't want to have them. That's all good. That's their choice. But when it comes to that wolf pack mentality, that's why I've always struggled, because I was at a co-ed school, and I had a bit of a different, I guess, experience to Jason, being a private boys' school, whereas I was at a co-ed school that ended up in the news multiple times for some interesting things. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But
that's the next podcast.
yeah. But I always found that I actually gravitated more to hanging out with girls in high school, because I never really got on with that whole kind of lads sort of chat. Every now and then, it's a bit of like it is fun to hang out with the boys and get a little bit rowdy and do some stupid things that boys seem to find funny. But when it got taken too far, that's when I started to get uncomfortable, and that's when I would start to kind of veer away from those groups and hang out with more kind of either multi guy girl groups, or I've got a probably solid 10 girls that I could list off my hands that would be my closest friends. And I've always thought that growing up, I always thought that was a weird situation to be in, that I'm a guy that's got so many close girl mates. I'd almost say that I talk more to my girl mates than I do to my guy mates. That also probably shows a bit of a issue with the whole guys not talking and sharing their emotions, and maybe that's why I'm someone who can open up a little bit easier, is because I've grown up around girls, got two older sisters, got lots of girl friends, I guess, who have been there when I've needed to talk, because the guys just don't want to hear it. They're like, oh, for lack of a better word, but they're like usually just, oh, that's gay, bro. Don't say that. And obviously, we don't want to be throwing that word around too much anymore, because it's offensive towards people who are gay. So yeah, it's a hard one to tackle, because you want to be part of that group, you want to be part of the boys, you want to be part of the lads, but then you also don't want to encourage that shit behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
No other way to put it.
I found as I've gotten older, I just don't care about like if someone's toxic to my mentality, I drop them. Like it's not a hard decision for me anymore. When I was going through school, and you're in this ecosystem that's very tight knit. Maybe there's only 100 people in your year group. You don't have a choice about who you hang out with. You go to school and you have to make do with what you've got. And then when you go into sports teams, maybe you want to play the sport, but there's someone on the sports team that you don't quite get along with, so you put up with them. But as I've gotten older, I'll only hang out with those that put me in a positive space, because I've got my own things to worry about, like life admin, jobs, uni, whatever you call it. I've got stuff on my mind all the time. And if someone's toxic, they're not worth my time anymore. It may sound ruthless. If I've hung out with them for the past 10 years and there's something toxic about them, I'll try and address it. But if they keep on doing that behavior, people just evolve in different ways, and I'm more than happy to say, right, you're not worth my time as much. Family, it's a lot harder because obviously they're family. But like it plays on my mind a lot when I'm around bad circles, and it's not worth my mental health to hang around them and give them my time, because there's a lot of good people out there who do deserve my time. So that's how I see it these days. It's as simple as that for me. We've had a question come up. Oh, go on, Dev, and then we'll bring up the comment.
I was just going to say, you just hit up a real good point, where you said you'll address it, and then if they don't change, that's when you are happy to cut them. So it's not a case of just being like, oh, that person didn't make me feel very good, see you later. It's a case of, all right, you're doing something weird, I'm going to let you know that it's a bit shit, and then I'm going to tell you, or at least address the situation and say, hey, bro, like, this is not the situation, this is not how I want you to kind of behave, and then see if the situation improves. Because you see a lot of people on Instagram at the moment, or Facebook or whatever, and they're like, positive vibes only, you've got to be positive all the time. But that's just toxic, because if you're having a shit day and you want to reach out to somebody, you're like, there's a difference between being a toxic person and then having a bad day. A bad day, it's okay to reach out, it's okay to say, like, my day's shit. But if you're just being a genuinely asshole of a person, then you can sort your shit out.
I've been lucky enough to be a part of quite high performing teams, and the main thing is that you review what you've done, you give feedback to each other, so you are all on this progression pathway, I guess. So if someone's talking badly or they're toxic, it's easier just to address that at the time, and it doesn't even enter my mind about having that conversation anymore. It's easy just to jump on it, get sorted. If it doesn't, then see you later.
What you're saying is join a team sport.
Team sport, honestly, team sport, I believe, gives such a strong foundation for life. I love sport. I love being getting out there doing exercise, but team sports has given me a lot to thank sport for. So here's the question that popped up from Mitchell John. You guys may get to this later, but why do we focus on just toxic masculinity and not toxic personality as a whole? I found that toxic masculinity has been in the spotlight because males, on average, tend to hide stories about abuse from females.
Damn.
Interesting. That's deep. So just want to make sure that I'm interpreting it right. The second half of that statement, I found that toxic masculinity has been in the spotlight because males on average tend to hide stories about abuse from females. I think that males hide their emotions in general, whether that's from females or not. There's certain emotional traits that are tied to being male, or the masculine traits, and that's like being strong, being dominant, being assertive, those sort of things. And so when you show your vulnerabilities, some people might think that is veering off the course of being a man, or being what they should be, or it's so let's start there. And then hide stories about abuse from females. I think anyone who's a victim, male or female, they're in a vulnerable position, and it's quite hard for them to come out and say that they're being abused. So I don't think it's tied to being a male as such, or a female. I think that's just a victim train of thought. What do you think, Dev?
Well, this actually reminds me of, so my sister Mercedes sent me through a really cool podcast. I can't remember who the name of it was, actually, but I was watching it earlier today. And they actually talk about toxic masculinity, and they refer back to Fight Club, the movie. And the whole idea of Fight Club is that you need to be, strong. You need to be able to throw a punch. You need to not step down to the man. So where I'm going with that is even females believe that males should be at a certain point. So that's where the toxic masculinity can come from. So it's not just about focusing on toxic personalities. It's the fact that males and females have created this persona of what a man should be. And I'm not saying all females obviously think this, but there is a lot of people who believe, especially in the older generation, that men should be doing certain things. Like, you've got your classic gender roles. You've got your men shouldn't be in the kitchen. Men should be out chopping wood and mowing the lawns and all that sort of stuff. So the root of the problem is actually ingrained a lot deeper into society, and it needs to come from both men and women to allow men to stop being as toxic with their masculine traits. So I'm not saying that you need to stop wanting to have muscle and you've got to stop looking in the mirror and, throwing a pose if you're proud of the way you look, or stop shooting guns because it makes you feel powerful. Like, if you want to go hunting, that's up to you. Like, that's all good. But it's that evolution of, those guys getting together and making someone feel worse because they're not as masculine as someone else. So
it's the expectation that's laid on people.
Yeah.
Because of these
So
stereotypes.
If someone doesn't want to go shooting an animal, doesn't make them any less of a man than you. And that comes from male and female. It's not just the guys who create that that opinion and that kind of persona that is happening with guys around the world. And there is definitely toxic personalities as a whole, but that's a whole different conversation, in my opinion. Toxic personalities is more of that kind of narcissistic sort of situation, and we could do a whole nother podcast on that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, when it comes back to that,
if people have a toxic personality, like that's just toxic. Don't need any of that. I think there's another issue that we're talking about, toxic masculinity, where there's that expectation and there's stereotypes built into what men should and shouldn't do. Also what women should and shouldn't do, there's this I guess toxic masculinity topic that we're talking about today.
And I agree that it's been brought into the spotlight more because guys don't speak up, and that's probably the problem, is that we're not talking enough, we're not opening ourselves up, and we're trying to hide this emotion. But it's not just because other guys are taking the piss out of us, it's because some girls take the piss out of us too. I've probably had more girls say that I'm acting like a girl than guys, which is quite kind of weird, because they're the ones that are almost offending themselves, and that doesn't make sense to me. So, especially because half the time I'm doing things that it's not even anything a girl would do. I'm a very strange character, as we all know. Like, I'll sing at the top of my roof to Taylor Swift, but like, that's all good.
There's that old saying, you throw like a girl. And some of the girls I know, they definitely could throw further than me. So I'm like, yo, let's go.
But, well, that's why I love underwater hockey. You got girls who are kicking guys' butts under the water 24/7, and it's like
absolutely.
The Premier League now, there's probably a girl in every single Prem team, because they've got rid of that whole kind of men's boys club. Even Crocs, which is kind of known for that boys club, has started taking girls into their Prem team, and I'm repping Phoenix right now. If you've never seen underwater hockey, check it out. Google it, YouTube it. You'll never understand it unless you do. But yeah, it's becoming a lot more inclusive in a lot of sports. Yeah, you got to throw a plug in every now and then.
Yeah,
to our thousands of listeners.
That's the one. One day, we're coming for you, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I was in this tutorial once, not too long ago, probably 6 months ago, uni tutorial, right? And we're talking about gender roles and like there was this topic about transgenders and ethics and all the rest of it because it's a big topic in medicine. And someone asked a question that made me double back a little bit. They said, "So are all masculine traits bad?" And it came from a guy, male, and it made me think, like, there's been so much talk in the media about this type of thing that people are starting to question that. And I quickly put my thoughts in there and I said, no, there is a place for masculine traits. It's good to share your thoughts and be dominant sometimes and actually and put yourself out there and take a strong stand if it's worth it to put up the good fight, because otherwise people would just trample all over you. You know, the world's an ugly place sometimes, and sometimes you do need to be strong. You do need to dig deep. You do need to put yourself out there. I don't think, but it troubled me a little bit that someone would ask that, you know, and these are very intelligent people, you know, and I'm not judging the person who asked it, but it does make me question how many other people think that way.
Yeah. And I guess it's a valid point, because there are times, and I guess what you could be called a masculine trait, you could take it back down to that scientific, or almost, I don't know if scientific's the right word, but more of like it's easier to define. So you've got things like, you know, being strong, all those sort of things. It doesn't mean a man or a woman can't be those things. They just might have masculine traits.
Sure.
It's kind of like how guys have feminine traits. There's a spectrum on both sides. But there are times when you do need to have those more, I guess, masculine traits of being strong. Like if you're protecting someone, you need to be able to protect them. Like your kids.
100%.
Like a lot of people would say that you need to show your kids emotion, but you don't want to show all the emotion, because otherwise they're going to get confused. If there's like a dangerous situation, you've got to put on. It's like in civil defense. You're not going to sit there panicking and crying as the earth, as the building crashes down around you. You've got to put your hard hat on and get out of there, and then crumble once you're in a safe space. It's that fight or flight response. And sometimes you've got to have that fight response.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like you can have male dancers and you can have female bodybuilders. You know, it's not about that. It's about like it's empathy has its place. Males can have empathy. Females can dominate a situation. You know, it's about having the right traits at the right times and everything in between. You know, I think it makes for a more developed personality when you can use the right traits at the right time. You know, and connect with people and make sure that it's situation dependent, right? If you're in a sports tournament, you want to dominate the field or the tennis court or whatever, the swimming pool, you've got to put your game face on and go for gold, right? If you're with sick people, you've obviously got to look after them, be nurturing, show empathy, make sure that they're okay, you know, and it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. Those are just truths to those situations. So I think that that everyone can show both. It's not whether it's male or female, but it's a big conversation to have when someone's saying that masculine traits or feminine traits shouldn't there's no place for it, you know.
Yeah, and you do hear a lot of people asking that question of, shit, like, is it okay to be a guy these days? And that can be, and I'm probably being shot by so many people who are on the left right now, being like, how dare you say something like that? But it is something that comes across your mind. It's like the joke is starting to become, if you're a straight white male, you're screwed because you've got no like unprivilege, and that's a really weird situation to be in as a straight white male. Like, do you admit to your privilege and try and help those with less privilege, or do you take the opportunity to use your privilege so that eventually you can help other people without privilege? Does that make sense? Or did I just ramble?
Absolutely. Yeah, like everyone comes from a different starting point. It's a genetic lottery whether you're born into a well-off family or not well-off family. So it's not your own fault. So there's no. This is how I look at it. There's no point of feeling guilty about where you're from, or but you have to have an awareness of the world and where you come from. If you are born with certain privileges that others might not be born into, then my personal opinion is that you have an obligation to help those who can't help themselves. So, and you have an obligation to yourself to get into a position where you can do that. So sometimes that means investing in yourself for maybe 10 years, 20 years, making sure you're in a good position. Obviously, you can help people along the way, but if your grand plan is to, I don't know, be a philanthropist, I don't know, like, and you need to have millions of dollars to execute on what your 30-year goal is, then sometimes you need to double down on yourself in order to be able to do that, so it may not happen if there's a lot of people who don't become philanthropists because they don't accrue that much of wealth, but if that's the grand plan, then go for it. I think our time is short on planet Earth. You should help others and help people along the way, especially those who didn't have a leg up that you may have had. But we're all in a different place, and we just do the best we can generally.
Yeah, it's like the guy who owns Cookie Time. I used to date someone who did the cookie selling every summer, and
everyone knows someone who did the cookie sellers.
Yeah, I know, right? It's you've got to know someone, but they went to the big dinner thing at the end, and he found out about one of the people. Like, I can't remember the exact story, but found out about one of the people who needed some help with something. Someone was sick or needed to go study or something like that, and he just forked out the money. He said, "If you can do this for me," asked them to do like 4 things. I'll pay for it. And it was 4 real simple things, and they were all giving back. And that's the type of person that you come to respect as like a business owner and stuff. They've got bang loads of money. They've obviously worked very, very hard to get where they are, but they're still willing to give back to the community. And I know I've heard of a few stories of people who have built themselves up to a position where they've got lots of money, and then they start giving back once they're in a position that they can. And it's kind of a weird thought, right? You've got to make someone of yourself to be able to give back. But then there's also so many people who, you got your freedom fighters who go over and try and stop the Amazon forest, and I have much respect for them, but to be honest, they're probably not doing as much as what someone who actually has a lot of power can do. Like, if someone like Elon Musk turned around and said, "I don't want the Amazon rainforest to be cut down anymore," he'd probably be able to stop it. Whether he will, that we'll find out one day. But I think it's the people who have the money, sadly, have the power. How did we get on to money as the power?
I don't know. We're
on a tangent
get
now.
off topic sometimes. I know someone who he sort of sold his soul to the devil when he was younger, and went into investment banking, and he's chasing the money. Ooh. And he admits this. So I'm just going to talk about it. I won't name him, but he went into investment banking for like probably a couple of decades or 3 decades, and he made lots of money. And then he looked at himself in the mirror and he thought, what am I doing? I guess he had a midlife crisis, but he did what he did, and he thought, what can I do from here? So he came back to New Zealand because he was in investment banking overseas, and now he's creating investment opportunities at very little cost to the consumer that can actually give them a leg up to get themselves in a good financial position. So it's I guess it's one of those. He invested in himself for a few decades so that he could. He didn't know that at the time, I don't think. But then one day he thought, "Oh, there's more to life than making money, doing what I've done. I need to actually make amends." So, yeah, I guess there's many ways to live life. Going back to toxic masculinity, there was a big news story recently. Will Smith. Will Smith
here we go.
and Chris Rock. We actually came up with this topic before that happened. For everyone out there,
we came with us 2 weeks ago. It was actually after our last podcast.
But this popped up and it made me think, far out. There's something to talk about.
Yeah, old Will Smith and The Rock. There's some terrible memes that have come out about that one.
Absolutely.
I actually saw a really cool post about it. Once again, my sister Mercedes posted. She's quite, I guess, quite vocal on her opinion of like toxic masculinity. She's on I believe she's on a similar thought to me, that it's not bad to be a man. It's more about how you portray yourself and how you're treating others, and how you bring them up and bring them down. And her thoughts wasn't anything about the post that was posted, and what she kind of said was around that it wasn't actually about Will Smith protecting his wife by slapping Chris Rock. It was more about him protecting his own ego to protect his wife, to make him look better, because she's a strong woman. She's done heaps. She's fighting a pretty massive battle of alopecia, and she's gone through a lot. She's well within her own rights to protect herself. So Will Smith coming in and slapping on her behalf has actually just belittled her, and said to all of the young people who look up to Will Smith and go, well, actually, it's okay to go and slap someone who says something bad. That's how we show people they're wrong. We use physical force instead of doing a more peaceful way, or letting Jada stand up for herself. I reckon if she got up and slapped him, she probably would have got a standing ovation. Not saying that slapping is the right way to go around in that situation. The joke was definitely below the belt, though. Like, why do you need to joke about someone's health condition to get a laugh? It's showing that the comedians are a little bit out of touch and starting to go a certain way. Actually make a joke that's funny rather than a joke that attacks someone directly. But
there's no winners out of that situation.
Definitely not. Like, Chris would have been, nothing would have happened to him if Will Smith hadn't done anything, though. That's the other sad part about
it. The only winner was the TV networks, where the ratings went through. So
well, you wonder
I'm a big fan of Will Smith. I think that he's a cool guy. He's achieved a lot. He carries himself normally, with a lot of integrity, and he always gets out there, does his best. He's positive icon, all that good stuff. But I think he had a moment of weakness, and I think that the indication of like the strength of someone's personality is how they deal with pressure and emotional situations. And it was clear to say that he snapped. Now, if that was staged or not, I don't know. But he didn't deal with the situation very well. If he got on stage and just had a harsh word with Chris Rock, I think a lot of people would have I guess, been a lot more understanding, you know? If but people who resort to violence, especially when they're emotional, it says something about their character or how they can control their emotions. And he was defending his wife, the person he loves. I understand that, but doesn't mean you should resort to violence, because a slap on the face, yes, Chris Rock will recover, you know. But since he's an icon, his his um, his actions has a lot of effect on everyone who was watching, and on everyone who looks up to him, and they may think that this is an acceptable way to treat people, you know. So it the network effects goes a lot further than just that one slap. So yeah, it's a shame it happened on the world stage on the biggest night of the movies, you know, in a year. But it was a moment of weakness for him, and his actions, I think, are inexcusable. It also, like, he's a comedian, and he knows that comedians sometimes toe the line with what's acceptable and what's not with their words. And so I think he should have been intelligent enough to see through that. That's my personal opinion. It wasn't a great joke, but it's a joke nonetheless, you know. And if you've seen Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes, you know, he toes the line on multiple occasions, and he keeps getting invited.
He doesn't even toe the line. He just
he goes way over the line, you know. And
tries to get fired.
Anyone who gets in that industry, they know what they're in for. They've been through it before. You know. So I think Will Smith just didn't show a lot of class that night, you know. That's my personal opinion. People make mistakes, though. He did issue an apology. I don't know if there's an investigation or not happening, because I don't think Chris Rock is pushing charges. But
no, from what I heard, he isn't. Chris Rock's going to make thousands out of this. He's going to do a whole comedy show around it, I reckon. It'll probably be titled "Will Smith slapped the shit out of me."
Look, those people aren't struggling, are they? Financially?
No.
So, we don't need to feel too sorry for them in that regard.
No, I think the big issue is that even though Will Smith did an apology, it was the whole thing of, you know, I was protecting, I was standing up for people who need me to stand up for them, and that kind of ties us back into that whole toxic masculinity thing of we have to protect those who are weaker than us. And I get that to a point, you know, like if you've got kids, sure, but a fully grown woman who is very, very intelligent and very tough herself, she could have dealt with that situation on her own. If she had a problem with it, it's kind of like up to her to stand up for herself and do that. You don't need a guy on a shining horse to come in and save you every time. And I think because of the way we've been portrayed through movies and our whole life, it's the guy is on the shining armor. Like I know myself, I've got a hero complex. I love to be the hero, and I love trying to fix people. Like that's probably half the reason why I became a personal trainer, to be honest, is because I want to help people get better. Because seeing other people succeed fills me with pride and a sense that I can't get just working with myself. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But I'm using it to my advantage to help other people.
Come on, mate, don't play it down.
No, I'll try not to. But I think it's that hero complex that people get. And Will Smith has definitely got a hero complex. Like, I mean, half the movies he plays, he plays the hero. And what guy's dream is that not to play the hero in a movie where everyone's looking up to you like you're a legend and a god and all that sort of stuff. So it's important for us not to be so invested on being the hero that we have to fix everyone's problems. And I think I talked about this maybe in our first podcast, potentially, that in the past I've been in relationships where I've tried to fix all their problems for them because of that kind of hero complex, whereas now I've learned that they've got to fix their own problems and you've just got to be there as that support person. So trying to take away that control of being the man and just being a man.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I think it's not just a male thing. I think everyone likes seeing other people built up. If you care about other people, and I like to think that's the majority of people. So if you invest your time and energies into helping someone else out, it's that altruistic behavior that you enjoy. It gives you a little drop of dopamine when you think, I actually help that person get ahead, whether that's in health or wealth or relationships, whatever it might be. It's a little metaphorical coin that can just go to your heart and helps you out. It fills you with joy. It's cool to see people doing well. It's good to see your mates getting a leg up, or others who you've helped. So no, I think it's not just a male thing. I think it's a human thing. That's how I see it. I think it's toxic when you try and you protect someone or you try and build them out at the detriment of others. I think that's what happened on the night of the Oscars. The emotion went to his head. He went into full battle mode, and then took on Chris Rock on the world stage, literally. It's an interesting topic. It's bound to happen. It's a big issue because it happened on the world stage, but it's small in terms of there's big issues happening around the world at the moment that has a lot more wide impacts. COVID, Russia, Ukraine, financial crisis. These are all big issues that seem a lot like they have bigger effects than this one slap.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a crazy thing to think that there is so much going on in the world, but it got so much media attention because there was two famous people beating each other down.
People love
it was kind of refreshing to see something else in the news, though, other than everything else that's going on. But it'd be quite nice to see something nice in the news for once. That would be good.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it was a girl who swam Lake Taupo twice, not just once, but back again. Youngest ever crossing. I think she was 17.
How long does that take?
Oh, it was it takes the average person to swim across Lake Taupo about 15, 16 hours. And I think she did it in just under 40 or 37 hours or something. I think her name, pretty sure it's Rebecca Hollingworth, was the one who did this swim. Crazy. Absolutely.
It takes a certain person to swim across Taupo and reach the other side and think, I could do that again, and just turn around.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That is nuts. 40 hours of swimming.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous like that. It's one of the longest open water swims that you can do.
That's ridiculous. Does your brother still hold the record for fastest swim?
For the Cook Strait, he does. Yeah,
but just not Cook Strait.
Nah, he got the second fastest for that one.
Didn't he also do Kapiti?
Yeah, he's done Kapiti a couple of times. Someone broke his record for that one.
Bastards.
I think it was I can't remember when that happened, but he won 4 times in a row with the Kapiti one. Then he did the Strait, then he did Lake Taupo, and then he did English Channel, and it hasn't probably been in the pool since.
He's got his medals, he's got his records,
Yeah.
But no, that's good to hear. Far out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that go up, see who it was.
Yeah, there was 2 who recently did a crossing, and one of the girls was called Rebecca Hollingworth. I don't know if she was the youngest. And then there was another girl who swam it as well. So there was 2 of them in the last
How old
month
are they?
that have crossed it. One of them is only 17.
Far out.
or 18.
Machines.
She got the youngest. Yeah,
absolute weapons.
Maybe even younger. I don't know. She got the record for it though.
That is crazy. Yeah. We've got to step up our game, Dev. We're falling behind. These girls are taking us over.
We're gonna have to go do the oldest crossing in like 50 years time. We can't get the youngest.
Well, we're not far off masters, are we?
Yeah, only 6 years.
6 years. Is it 35?
Yep.
Maybe I'll make my big comeback then. Back in the pool.
Yeah. Once we're even more broken.
Yeah, exactly. All right, bro. I think we've fleshed out this topic a little bit. I don't think we got to the bottom of it though.
No, I don't think we ever will.
No, the world needs to sort it out. This is bigger than you and I. You know, it's big topic. Yeah. What? Oh well. We've got a couple more weeks until the next one, and then we can see everyone again. You know.
Yeah. If you got any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about, chuck them in the comments.
I'm sure something will come up in the news. Yeah. If anyone wants us to talk about a certain something, a topic, a subject that you're interested in, chuck in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But hopefully we can share our ideas about it and answer a few questions. Always enjoy audience input into what we're going to talk about. 100%. But for now, that's us. Till next time. Adios.
Peace out, team.
See you, everyone. Enjoy your fortnight. Till next time.
Peace.